Right, hello everybody. It's been quite a while since I produced some videos. Just adjust my screen there. But given where we are in this year, which is at the moment towards the end of June 2025, and with this Awaab's law starting to be implemented in October, I thought it would be quite appropriate to basically produce a series of short videos, starting with this one, about mould and condensation surveying and common misconceptions. I say all this for the simple reason that if you have the sort of experience that I have and that my family has in this industry, which goes back to the 1980s, you'll know that there have been various initiatives over the years to try and improve damp and mould, especially in the public sector. And each and every one of them has ended in failure, and the problems just persist. And this for the simple reason that the root causes are never understood properly. Okay, and also how to deal with them are not truly understood either. And yet, the people who are responsible in the industry think they know everything about what needs to be done. And therefore what happens is the problems repeat and persist, and those people who have been hired end up having to be moved on, and the initiative loses all of its energy, and the problems just go on. And we've seen this in waves over the years, and in my opinion, obviously there's been a lot of focus in recent years with the introduction of the new laws and culminating in this Awaab's law. There's a very significant risk that the cycle could repeat again. So the purpose of this videos and these videos is to try and shine some light, to try and help people understand where the problems might be coming from. I want to make it clear though, I'm not here to educate. We're a commercial business. We're looking for new relationships all the time, and I'm certainly not here to educate everybody on the unique skill set that we have when it comes to root cause diagnosis, and then how to permanently address mould and condensation. Okay, so the first subject I've described as common misconceptions in the understanding of damp and mould problems, and the sort of common misconceptions that we see in surveys. Because there are many. And obviously, if you misdiagnose what's causing the problem, then what will happen is the treatment that you propose will miss the root cause, and therefore the problem will not be fixed, and it will eventually return. Of course, in this country, mould and condensation is a cyclical problem because of the air temperature. There's a massive difference in air temperature between summer and winter. This affects the indoor relative humidity conditions. You typically only see damp and mould problems in the winter months for this reason. And it's something that you can predict. We know we're going to have warmer summers and colder winters. Okay, so because it's a cyclical problem, if you do an incorrect treatment, let's say in March, you're not going to necessarily see the impact of that incorrect treatment until September. And unless you understand this, you're going to think your treatment has worked. And then, of course, when September comes along and the problem returns, you might be thinking, well, there's got to be a different problem because it worked for 6 months. Why has it stopped working now? And of course, the reason why the problem comes back is because it never addressed the root cause in the first place. So we see this pretty much every time we go out and do a survey, and it's shocking, frankly, the degree of ignorance and endemic misunderstanding across the entire industry in every single stakeholder group in this area. The vast majority of people who practice in this industry really don't understand the true root causes. They might understand the physical processes, but they don't understand how those are applied in the real world. And that's what we see day in, day out. Lack of understanding and solutions that just fail to address the problem. The first area, I suppose, is we're talking about is the use of moisture meters when diagnosing a damp problem. Okay, so this is a very common practice that you'll see by, accredited surveyors, qualified surveyors who walk into a property and then they'll shove a meter into a wall and they'll get a reading and they'll say, right, there's a damp problem. All I want to say about that is that if somebody walks into your house and does exactly that and then concludes that you have a structural damp issue or whatever, then they're essentially guessing. The use of moisture meters is not a bad practice. It's just that you need to understand how they work and the fact that they're almost always producing what I call false positive readings, which of course a false positive means it says it's damp when it may not be. And it's very, very important to understand this because, again, we see this all the time. People ask surveyors to come in, they shove a moisture meter in a wall, they find it's a high level, then they tell the customer, right, you need a new damp proof course or you need to replaster this wall or whatever it may be. So the logic of those assumptions is that what's causing the problem, the moisture that's causing the problem is coming through the structure of the building as opposed to from another source. So unless you basically go through the process of looking at the potential for both causes and understanding both and basically ruling each out based on evidence, you're kind of guessing. And of course, if you, let's sort of go with the thing that we usually find. If somebody used a moisture meter to conclude that there's a structural problem when in fact the problem has nothing to do with the structure of the building, but you therefore propose a structural treatment, the root cause of the problem is going to remain, but you think it's gone away. Okay, and this is one of the probably the most common problem that we see in the industry. And of course, if you're a homeowner, the question is how many times have you tried to address your damp problem and it hasn't worked and the problem's returned year after year after year. Now I see this pretty much every week in my business, and I see it in the private sector, I see it in the public sector. I do lots and lots of social housing surveys where the degree of frustration from the tenants is frankly amazing. And I think that social housing providers actually get quite a lot of bad press. I've never come across any social housing provider who wants to do a bad job for their tenants, not one. But I have come across numerous examples of where the social housing provider is using companies and contractors who tell them they're experts when in fact they're not really experts. And this actually can also include surveyors who are hired by the social housing company who might have all the qualifications, but they just don't know how to correctly diagnose these problems. And of course, the tenants remain exposed all the time. Now, just one final point with this is that if one of the big focuses I think that's been going on since the start of the most recent wave of focus on trying to improve mould and condensation is purely on mould. If you do a sort of mould wash or some sort of symptomatic treatment without addressing the root cause, obviously the problem's going to eventually return. But some people might think, okay, well, cleaning the mould is okay because you're getting rid of it for the customer. Well, that may well be true, but it's going to grow back at some point. But the fact is there are other, in my opinion, more serious health-related risks related to the same root cause that are left untouched. So it's a total myth and completely wrong to think that doing a mould wash or doing sort of mould cleaning at any time, okay, is going to prevent and make safe that property, because you need to understand all of the other health-related issues relating to the root cause. Very, very few people understand those because of the typical siloed thinking that goes with this process. Okay,